Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Today, the staff of the Office of Advancement heard from our colleague Sabrina Whitman, who is our coordinator of Indigenous Affairs and is a member of Glooscap First Nations. She shared some time with us speaking about the land and the people who live here. We have much learning to do and much unlearning to do. My name is Una Proudfoot, and I'm the Executive Director of Alumni Affairs in the Office of Advancement at Acadia. And it's a pleasure to be here this evening with our next event in our virtual series, with our guests who will be introducing us to the world of puppeteering. We have been running this virtual event series since last May and have been doing our best in offering a wide variety of topics. And we've spoken often about offering events that appeal to a broad population, including our young friends, all of whom we hopefully eventually make their way to Acadia. Please join me in welcoming Heather and Darryll from the Maritime Marionettes. The Maritime Marionettes was founded by puppeteers Heather and Darryll Taylor, and they have entertained audiences in Canada and abroad, performing in English or French since 1986. They have traveled in Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and North America with their stringed creations, giving their audiences an opportunity to see a unique and ancient art brought to life at the hands of two gifted puppeteers. The company creates its productions from concept to finished product. Heather and Darryll began working together in 1984 with the Kids Express Puppet Troupe in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Then after a full season of apprenticeship and touring with David Sirotiak's National Marionette Theatre, the Taylors began their company, Maritime Marionettes, based in Truro, Nova Scotia. Heather Bishop Taylor's passion for creating marionette shows began at the young age of 10. After receiving her Bachelor of Arts in French at Acadia University, she went on to study theatre at Dalhousie University and the foundation year at the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. She also studied violin for 7 years and blends her love of music, theatre, and French with her love of marionettes. Heather designs the marionettes, backdrops, and many of the costumes. She has led puppet making workshops for all ages and occasions and is an accomplished puppeteer, marionette designer, and producer of marionette theatre. Darryll Murray Taylor began working with marionettes following several years of work with hand and rod puppetry. He is an excellent marionette performer, conveying both strength and nuance through the puppets. He is the principal writer for the shows, whether retelling a traditional tale or creating original stories. Darryll builds the marionette figures and props from basswood, and his artistic vision is key in the mounting of the company productions from concept to the final performance. Welcome, Heather and Darryll, and many thanks for joining us this evening. Over to you.
Wow.
I almost forgot what we did there.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for reminding us.
So we actually do have pictures to go with everything that Una just said. And why don't we just do that right now? Switch to, okay, that's a little history about, from a very young age, as Una said, I started my interest when I was 10. Now I'm older here in my teens. But I have my first marionette I ever made on my lap there, Jimmy, the little fella in the overalls. And next to him is Colchester the Dragon that my mom made. Mm-hmm. And those were the...
Very popular in the workshops, Colchester.
Yeah,
kids love them.
Yeah, those puppets are
still today even.
Yeah, they're still really popular because Colchester we still have.
Yeah, I got them going for the marionette manipulation workshops, and kids just love them.
And he looks as good as he did. I mean, how long ago was that? I don't know, but okay.
Don't say.
It was a long time ago, but the dragon still looks.
We'll just say a long time ago.
Yeah, it's kind of a blurry picture, but okay. Now the people that knew me and at Acadia would have recognized in the background Wiglaf the mouse and Alfredo the fiddler. So these are some of the early puppets that I worked with when I was doing solo shows. And I also have my basketball player, but he's not, I don't have a picture of him. That wooden marionette was made for me by my father. He made my first wooden ones before I learned to do my own. Well, that one I actually made that one myself too, Atlas.
Alice. Yeah.
And I think I performed her at Acadia too. Pretty sure
I
I
wasn't
had
there,
her.
so
You weren't
I don't
there.
know.
No, this is before your time. Now this is your time here. You can tell us who this fellow
This
is.
is David Srodiak. He's a gentleman from, at that time, when we worked for him, it was Hartford, Connecticut, where his company was based. It's called the National Marionette Theater, and very accomplished puppeteer. He learned from the famous American puppeteer Bill Baird, who did the Sound of Music puppets, The Lonely Goatherd. Is probably maybe the one thing that he's most famous for. And we apprenticed with David performing, see one of the marionettes there, the little rocking horse that was in a production called Toy Shop, which is kind of a variation of the Nutcracker that we toured for David. And also Beauty and the Beast. And so we went down there and we rehearsed 2 shows in 2 weeks and went on a national tour all across the United States. So it was really into the fire for me when it came to just basically learning how to run a marionette for the first time. In a couple of weeks, I was out on stage performing in soft seat theaters all across the United States.
Yeah, here's a picture of you with for the toy shop, one of the toy shop marionettes. The Srodiaks are very well known puppeteers, and we're still friends. We're still in touch on Facebook with them all, and very gifted. And they were generous with us, and we learned a lot.
We learned a lot, and David really pioneered the idea of trying to make the marionette move as realistically as possible. His idea was the more they seem like real people, the more people would engage with them. So if you look closely at his joints and, of the marionettes and stuff, which we'll get into a little bit later on another slideshow, you'll notice that the marionettes are designed and constructed in a way that really makes them move like real people. Yeah, there's a good example there. You can just see the way that that marionette is standing and the way that it's balanced and the movement that is in it. You can just feel the life in it when you're looking at it.
And that is the actual workshop marionette that I made when I first went down and met the Srodiaks at the National Marionette Theater. And I was so excited to be able to go and learn the skills as how to make a gorgeous, fine marionette like that. And that's, anyway, here we are in our shop. Later on.
Yeah, this is our first little studio over in Bible Hill. It was the upstairs of her father's garage, actually. And we built 2 productions, Cinderella, and character in this show, I think it was called The Greatest Little Show, based around the tales of a bush pilot. Pilot Pete.
Pilot Pete. This is our small theater that we started really small and then moved big. And the first small show was...
That's a traditional bridge stage, which means the puppeteers are hidden from view and working on a bridge behind the backdrop that you see here with the 3 bears. And that was the first show that we opened as Maritime Marionettes, was Goldilocks and the 3 bears, thinking that small shows, smaller audiences, smaller communities that wouldn't normally get live theater that we could go around to. And it just took right off.
Yes, it really did. People are just totally charmed by that little small show with the backdrops. Now, then we moved to making these larger puppets where we're seen in full view performing with them. Oh, that last one, let me just pause on that for a minute. That's the Brementown Musicians. That was 2009, I think we made that show.
Yeah, and we do our own photography here in our studio as well. I just want to mention because that's a gorgeous picture.
It looks good on the screen.
How you do it.
We do it, Darryl.
This is our first original show that we produced. It was also the most expensive show we ever produced.
Never again.
Never again. But it's called Molly and the Oak Island Treasure, and I believe it's probably more relevant today than it was when we opened it back in, 1990? No.
1993.
1993.
1993.
Yes. Yeah.
The great thing about marionettes is that you can tour with them. Like, we're much older than we were in 1993, but we can still do these shows. And the puppets don't age, so they have the shows can have a very long life.
The marionettes can last a long time.
Yeah.
This is Jack and the Beanstalk. It's one of our more recent productions.
2011, that one.
Yeah, and we started to incorporate also with the marionettes, shadow puppets.
Oh yeah.
Of course,
I don't think I have a picture of that, but just yet. But here we are on the performing. So as I said, we're not hidden in this one. We're out in the open.
Yeah, this is called concert style, as opposed to the bridge style that I explained earlier. So you can see Heather and I are out working in full view with the marionettes and just have suggested props. And here we are in Taiwan, receiving a wonderful gift. And all I could think about was, how am I going to get this back home in one piece? They're going to be giving us a watch.
Yeah, here
but
we
anyway, we did manage to get it home in one piece, so now it sits in our kitchen as a reminder of how well they treated us there.
They treated us so beautifully. That was an international children's festival.
Yeah.
And they were just
they were like rock stars.
Oh,
yeah, well, not just us, but all the other performers that they invited were. But especially us, because apparently in Taiwan there's a tradition that the further away you travel, the more luck you bring. Right. And we were the people who traveled the furthest.
Yes, I mean, they didn't even know where the east coast of Canada was. Many people knew about Vancouver.
Yeah.
But when they realized how much further east coast was, they were just like, "You came that far? That far?" Well, I couldn't believe it either. I'm shocked in that picture. Actually, you could see the shock on my face. I think I was shocked the whole time I was there, because we had crowds. This is a normal question and answer period after a show, like just a huge crowd.
They were turning away up to 500 people for each show.
Okay, here's another audience shot. So typically we don't have thousands watching, but there in Taiwan we did.
Yeah.
And everyone did. I mean, it wasn't just us. Let's not.
Okay.
Here we are back in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, this is a very typical school setup for us on the gym stage, with the audience seated on the floor. And we do, we used to do hundreds of these performances in a school season. Sometimes 2 in a day. Sometimes we would set the whole thing up in the morning and do a performance, and then strike it all, and then move to another school as long as it wasn't more than an hour away. We could even have some lunch. And then set the whole thing up and do it again.
This is the more, like you just said, this is normal. This is our most normal, everyday kind of, this is our work.
Yeah.
Going to Taiwan was a 2-time thing so far. I don't know whether we'll be ever going back, but.
Well, they keep inviting us, but we haven't taken them up on it yet. We've got yet to agree on. Okay, now I'm just going to flash for the Acadia people. This is a giant Mother Earth puppet that, so basically you can tell she's walking down Main Street in Wolfville there at the homecoming parade. I think we had her maybe 2 parades or so. I can't remember the years. But anyway, that was great fun. We had Mother Earth in the parade. Yeah, and we went to, I'll put a plug in here for puppetry festivals. Yeah. If you ever have the opportunity to go to a puppetry festival, the one where we got the inspiration from Mother Earth was in Jonquière in northern Quebec. Just a really good puppetry festival. They focus on the quality of the presentations, and they bring puppeteers in from all over the world. And to get to what I was saying, there were a number of giant puppet presentations at that festival. So we were inspired to try something big for a change. And this is what we came up with. Mother Earth walk-around puppet made off a backpack frame, and her head is paper mache, and her body is parachute material. Parachute fabric. Very light, but still very tricky in the wind. No, we don't do her that often, but I'm always terrified I'm going to blow over. Yeah. So I get you to do it. I even did it on skates. Yeah, you did. I don't know why. Who talked me into that? He skated it around the Colchester Stadium. Okay, well, that was another story. All right, so here we are. This is a theater. This was our last really big tour. Before the pandemic, we went to Ontario on 7 communities. Northern Ontario. I'm not sure exactly which community that was. Yeah, it's hard to say. Okay, and here we are in, I think that's in Antigonish.
So here we're stacking the Bremen Town musicians. I don't know if you can see, but you know, in the story, the animals stack on top of each other. So we actually do that. Each of us has 2 controls, one in each hand, obviously,
yeah.
and
it's a very tricky maneuver that we save. It's the last thing we do in the show. So, anything goes wrong and we're already off stage, the show's over.
Yeah, we just make sure we save the hardest thing for the last. Another style of performing, in our later, like probably in the last 5 years, we just decided we have to be really adaptable, and in order for more people to see in different circumstances.
Yeah, we were kind of stuck in the schools there for a while. Yeah, we weren't getting a lot of public shows anymore. So.
Well, we love the schools.
We love the schools.
But we weren't moving, you know, general public weren't able to see us. Families weren't able to see us all together.
Yeah, and that's our favorite audience. It's the whole
really
family together.
Oh, did the picture? Oh, hello. Okay. Mom, you're going to take your video off there. I see my mother has just joined. Okay, so here we are. So yeah, that's outside, and that's in Wolfville also. That's at the Deep Roots Festival.
Deep Roots Festival, yeah. And this is, we decided to create a variety show that we could extract just some vignettes or do the whole thing. So we there was a portion of it. We performed with the Caledonia Orchestra. Yeah. So just kind of rethinking our places that we perform and how we could make our shows a little more adaptable to whatever circumstances that we were faced, so we could try some different public venues. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense, and it was working in that respect. It's a little more stressful in a way because
it's you don't know what to expect as much. Yeah, it's a little more.
Well, you're in more precarious situations often.
Yeah.
Like on
standing up on a 4 or 5 foot platform
in a tiny little space. Yeah, and carefully don't step off, kind of thing. Okay. Arguing about what's the best way to set it up. Okay.
Oh, here we go. Here's our gypsy wagon, or purple puppet theater, we like to call it. We had a local fabricator build this wagon completely out of aluminum, which is a very light material that lasts a long time. And as you see, the side just opens up, and Heather and I can perform from inside of the trailer, rain or shine.
Right.
So that's really what we decided. In the summertime, we had having a really hard time getting work because seems all the children events were going to bouncy castles. And we realized the advantage they had over us was that they could just set up their own thing in their own part of the festival, and the presenter didn't have to worry about them. So we said, well, maybe we can do that too, and see whether we can be a little more competitive. So with this wagon, we can just pull right in on the site, and we're completely self-contained. We have our own sound, lighting, and stage, and all the audience has to do is sit down and watch the show. And it was going really like with
just starting
to get going again, and then of course now there's weeds growing
around. No, but we have in 3 weeks we're going to be performing for the Acadia on Acadia Day in Truro. A French performance, so we're very excited about that. Now, I'll show you another picture of that wagon. See.
Yeah, there's
that's in front of Truro's. That's in Truro's new downtown civic. What do they call it now?
Civic Square.
Yeah. And previous to that, the first shot was at the Annapolis Valley Apple Blossom Festival. Yeah. Okay, so this is in Truro, and now, whoops. Oh yeah, this is just a picture of what you see today. I don't know why I put that in there. Oh, workshops. Okay.
We're doing a lot of workshops with Perform Nova Scotia. We had 2 different types. This is Introduction to Marionette Theater workshop, where I do a very quick demonstration, and then we have a whole selection of marionettes that the children get to try. And we also, on the same workshop, half the workshop is with the marionettes, and then the other half of the workshop is learning how to use shadow puppets. So we have a shadow screen set up, and all the kids get to try the shadow puppets on the screen, and they just love it.
Yeah, they're making some hand
making
shadows
some
there.
hand shadows there.
We do puppet making.
Puppet making workshops.
Those 3 girls, they made triplets.
They made triplets, yeah.
And there's backstage the kids doing the shadow puppets. They absolutely love it.
Yeah. All ages.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All ages.
Okay, that's our history. We took a little longer with that than we planned because...
No, we'll show how we make our marionettes.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, let's do that.
Now that you have an idea of how we perform them.
Yeah, this is a lot quicker.
Here we go. Of course, we start, or Heather starts with a drawing of what she wants a character to look like. This is the magician and our production Petrushka. And then once these are templates of the, as you can see, the legs of the marionette. And once they're all drawn out, I'll transfer that onto templates made out of cardboard. Then I will trace those onto pieces of wood. And you can see what I was saying earlier about the joints. Now, the thing about this joint, you see it has a certain range of movement. Well, that's as close to the human body as possible. But you see there's a little stop there in the knee. So it also has the same restriction of movement as the human body. And that's what really gives them the realistic look when we are moving them.
Well, that's the knee again.
That's the knee again there, yeah. Here's an ankle here, and you can see with the ankles, again, what I'm doing there is I'm making a hidden stop in the ankle, so the foot just doesn't flip up and down all the way. It actually just moves as much as close to the human ankle as possible. So when you're, like I said, when you're moving the marionette, it gives realistic movement. This is now Heather sculpting the heads out of clay. We start with clay. You try to make all your mistakes in clay because it's easy to correct. And try to get all the heads the same size and same look. And then we have to make a plaster cast and put the cast back together. And we put fiberglass inside. And the finished product is the same thing that people use to repair the automobiles, which we call Bondo or auto body fill, also known as just fiberglass too.
Yeah.
But it's kind of in a almost not a liquid state, but like pasty state when we put it in.
Right.
Oh yeah, the costumes again are drawings at first, and then you see we have to fit the costumes. Sometimes we will hire a professional costumer, as we did with this fellow here, and then other times we'll do them ourselves. What we found with costumes is very important. From the drawing to the actual costume, the figure, you have to go and pick out your fabric. Choices of fabric, very, very important. You want hold it up and see whether it will move, you know. Anything that shimmers and shines also really catches the audience's eye as well. Can't say enough about the importance of costumes. It's
yeah, we'll show you. We're going to show you a little bit about that. In fact, why don't we stop looking at the pictures for a second and show, because we're going on about how the puppets move, and we haven't shown any puppets moving.
okay.
So let's.
Sure.
Now, I just want to say, if anybody wants to interrupt with a question, please do.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, Heather. What I'm going to ask folks to do is, if you have a question during the sort of big picture presentation piece, to just write it in the chat function, and I'll keep an eye on the chat function, and if any questions pop up, I will read them out to you. And then once you're done, we'll also allow for some Q&A at the end.
That sounds like a great plan. I read something from Nancy Hendrigan. Oh yeah, that the cars are a giveaway as to the time period in Wolfville when we did the homecoming parade with Mother Earth.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's right. The
Whoever
cars.
thought, yeah.
Okay, so.
Okay, I have a marionette here. T2 the Jester, he's our main character in our newest production, World on a String. And now the best way to hold the marionette is with your hand over the top, right in the middle of the control. And the first thing you have to do is learn how to walk the marionette. And it's one of the most difficult things to be able to catch on to. He has a foot bar that I just removed with my right hand here. And you can see when I rock it back and forth, I'm moving his feet. So to make him walk, I also have to remember to move the main part of the control along too. So it's almost like you're skimming the floor with the bottom of his feet, but you want to move the feet so it looks like he's catching his weight when he walks, like so. Now, it's really hard to turn him the other way because I'm left-handed, but you have to learn to walk him both ways without standing in front of the puppet. So that's why you can bring his foot around like that when he turns. There you go. Now his hands are a continuous string that runs from one hand up to the control and down to the other hand. So you can see I have control over both hands by pulling on the one side of the string. Okay, now he has two head strings, and the head strings are attached to what looks like the wings of the airplane control up here. And you can see when I tip the control back and forth, I have control over the head. Here's a nose string to make him look up in the air, be somebody taller than him, or when you're trying to make it look like he's speaking, you can pull on that nose string to give a little bit of movement in his head. And he has elbow strings, and the elbow strings are there to really add some expression to his arms. You can pull them up and down like this, but you see what happens when you can pull back on them at the same time, all of a sudden his arms become a lot more expressive. Okay, so simple move, walking to the chair and sitting down. First you have to walk him to the chair, moving the foot bar. You'll pause, maybe put his hand on it, have a look by using the head strings. Yes, it looks okay. Now I'll move him in front and I'll put his elbows back a little bit like this, just to look like he's going to catch his weight when he sits down. Now to stand up, I could just stand him straight up like this, but you really want to slow your movement down and try to make it as realistic as possible. So instead of just standing him straight up, I'll maybe shift one foot forward, lean him forward, and then up, and then straight like this. Okay?
Awesome, Darryll. Pretty smooth considering we haven't been doing our usual number of shows.
Like a bicycle.
In the past period of time. And I wanted to show the one behind you there. This one.
Oh yeah, Heather's going to show.
Yeah. I wanted to show you this. We don't have a name for her, but because we were talking about the fabric and how important fabric is. You know, that it moves, and you can see when I shake her or move her that her gown really has a lot of movement, and that's essentially all she is just a piece of fabric with a head, two arms and hands, and a fan. Because you'll see when I move her, when I let her just drop to the ground. It is just the fabric that is most of her body. So we make the puppets out of wood, but also cloth, and we try different styles.
We have animals, and we also have birds. Here's a parrot. And when you're moving the birds, slow, graceful movements are preferred. You want the audience to be able to follow what's happening. And of course, also, you want to give yourself a chance to be able to keep up with the figure, so you're just not flinging it around. And again, important, passing the puppet back and forth in front of your body instead of going around in a circle like this and having him disappear.
Oh yeah, that's important. There's a close-up of the parrot.
There's a close-up, and it's trying to really slow your movements down as much as you can. And
the kids,
even more so for the camera.
Yeah, the kids love
Which is what we learned during COVID, is how different it is performing for the camera than it is performing live.
Yeah, the kids absolutely adore the birds.
The birds, yeah.
The children, they want to try the birds. Okay, now I'm gonna. You want to show one more, and I'll see.
One more. I just want to show you this one. It's. I know a lot of the marionettes that we've been showing you look pretty complicated to build. But look at this little guy here. This is from a vignette in The World on the String. called Dreamland. And what we wanted to do is show how easy it can be to get a marionette going. So we went and bought some stuffed toys. And this guy, all his movement was already there when he was sitting in the toy store. All he needed was strings. We did not have to do anything to this marionette but make it control and put strings on him. And just look how delightful he is. I mean, how much personality does he have anyway?
More than enough.
More than enough. Yeah, and all he needed was strings. And
actually, that one was like a second-hand in a second-hand store. I didn't even buy that one new. It's getting harder to find stuffed toys like that. Now all the stuffed toys have really big, huge eyes, and yeah, they just don't have the look I'm looking for. Now, I'm going to see if this will play, just to give you a sample of our work. I don't know if it actually will. No. Okay, so we'll do more with the puppets. It's just everything. I have a video of our latest show that I put in the iPad, but for some reason.
oh, there it goes.
Where?
Oh, it's.
Oh, it says it's playing on the TV. Well, I don't want it to play on the TV. See, this is what happens. But we can. You can actually, if you want to watch a little video of our work.
It's available on Vimeo.
Yeah.
To rent.
There's a little 2-minute what do you call it, trailer.
Yeah. But
yeah,
rent the whole thing and we'll make some money.
Well, the videos are actually for schools to rent. But if an individual wanted to rent the whole show, just send me an email and we'll work that all out. You can make a donation.
With as many people as you want.
You can make a donation, but the schools are the Vimeo one. We were trying to sort all this stuff out during the pandemic. So how are we doing for time now? 7:34.
Okay, maybe we should, I was saying about the importance of not hiding the marionettes with your bodies. And of course, when there's two people on stage.
Oh, there's Una.
Well, I just wanted to pop in and it's not so much a question, but I'm just wondering, I see some other very interesting looking characters and I'm wondering if a couple of them could be introduced. So, I mean, you showed us two and a couple of animals, but I see your basketball player, for example. And
Barack Obama, the basketball player. D-ball Obama.
We could do him and we can do the fiddler or we can do all kinds of them. Okay.
I don't know if she wants to do them, just show them.
Yeah, just show, introduce the show. I'll show a little bit of them because we do have to do more. Okay, so let's get his net up here. When I was at Acadia, I had a basketball player, marionette, and Darryll got the idea when Obama came into the news, however many years ago that was, that we should really convert or create a marionette basketball playing marionette that was Obama, based on Obama, Barack Obama, and so this is him. And because he loves that sport and he's so good at it, and it's nice to spread around for the kids to know that there's more to the president than, a president. There's the joy of the things he loves to do.
Yeah, he likes to have fun too.
Okay, so here he is dribbling the ball, and he can also dunk it too, but I have to turn the net a little bit. So this would have been on the video I tried to show you, but okay. So he has one of those nose strings we were talking about. So I use that to make him look up at the net. All right. And the basketball is on a very long string. Whoops. There we go. Got a little. So he's able to put that through the net. Star that he is. Well, this one actually is really hard to do. It's, these kind of trick puppets that have special things they do are a little harder.
There's many things that can go wrong.
Yes. And I think you can show the fiddler next, but I'll do this trick while you're getting the fiddler ready. This little trick here. Okay, Obama, that's a pretty good trick. And we just have maybe a little more time. If there aren't any questions, we just keep on showing puppets.
Okay, John Angus, the fiddler. Now, that's just a very nice looking violin he has here that we, actually I think it was gifted. Somebody give us this.
Yeah.
Finish your violin.
Maggie Craig.
Yep. And she's a famous movie director now.
Yeah, she's a famous movie director. She used to do puppets with us.
She used to do puppets with us.
Maggie.
Anyway, you see there's another bar here that I removed that moves the bow back and forth across the violin, like so. And to make it look more realistic when I'm playing is that coming from Manikanesh County, I've watched many violin players over the years. And I noticed that in the high notes, they'll sometimes have the bow right up here. And on the low notes, they'll slide it down there like that. And on the other hand, I try to coordinate that with moving the other hand up and down the neck of the violin in time to the fiddle music that is pre-recorded for me and is playing. So, yeah. And also, I can clip off this split bar and get the feet and the fiddle going at the same time. And there's not too many fiddle players that you see these days that can dance and play the fiddle at the same time, like John Angus can. And he's a very, very popular routine, especially when we were playing with the Caledonia Orchestra. People really enjoyed him and his step dancing daughter, Teresa.
So the Caledonia Orchestra is a Scottish fiddle orchestra.
Scottish fiddle
music orchestra.
That we toured with just before COVID.
Yeah, excellent. Okay.
And what else is there? Oh, there's so much to show. I mean,
We'll just see if this will go. Okay, keep showing. Show the dragon.
Okay, yeah, we have a Chinese dragon marionette here. Again, we were very inspired when we went to Asia and saw all the different takes on dragons with like people moving them, different sections. This guy, Heather designed and built out of, you can see, mostly all fabric. And again, anything that's flying, I'll say again, slow, graceful movements is what really makes them come to life. There's a little wire there in the middle that I can pull up and down like that. And that is there to just kind of give the idea that maybe he's propelling himself somehow, which adds to the illusion of the moving marionette. Now, we were commissioned to build a show for a symphony orchestra in Lubbock, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the ballet Petrushka. So we had to come up with marionettes that were going to be performed in a 1,200-seat concert hall in Lubbock, Texas, while surrounded by a symphony orchestra. So what we did is that we came up with a design that was just about as tall as we can manipulate. You can see how close my hand is to the head of the marionette here. So you really can't build it much taller than that unless you're standing up on stilts or on a bridge. And of course, we made the arms a little longer and the legs a little longer, just so they could be seen from further away. And Petrushka is a beautiful ballet. And we even had the opportunity to take this production, Petrushka, to the 100th anniversary of the Ballet Russe.
Yes.
In Monaco, where we performed for Princess Caroline.
Princess Caroline, yes.
And she loved the show.
Her daughter saw it first.
Her daughter saw it first.
And she loved it, and she told her mom to go see it in the evening. So that's
there you go.
Went. Yeah, so now.
So I do want to allow for a little bit of time because we did have some questions that were submitted prior to.
Okay.
So maybe what we could do is work through some of those and again, just remind folks if they have questions currently that weren't submitted previously that they could write them in the chat function. And certainly those people who are comfortable in turning their cameras on or just their microphones, whatever, they can certainly ask the questions real time. They don't have to write them in the chat function. But for folks on the line who are new to this platform, the chat function is launched simply by clicking the icon that looks like a text box that's typically in the top right-hand corner of your screen. So hopefully that's a good instruction for folks to know how to write in the chat function. And in the meantime, as I say, we've had some questions that were submitted prior to the presentation this evening. So I'm just going to work through them, if that's okay with you two. And I'm going to start with my own because, hey, when you're the host of an event and you have questions, and I furiously always have them. I mean, I've got enthralled with the ankle piece and the knee piece and how you prevent it from going completely the other way. As a bit of a kinesiologist myself, that's the type of thing that I'm kind of going, okay, cool. And the other part the other thought that I'm having is how much trouble I have patting my head and rubbing my belly. So I'm thinking marionettes is not a thing that I should even consider because there seems to be so much coordination with what you're doing. But my specific question, Heather, was you mentioned your father and either making your first puppet or helping you with your first puppet. So obviously your father made puppets. And I guess what I'm wondering, is it safe to say that your love for puppeteering was a hand-me-down?
Well, yeah, actually, well, both of my parents were big contributors to my interest. And I think they were the kind of parents that observe their children and support their interests, because neither of them were actually really interested in puppets in a big way until they saw I did.
Sorry, they didn't discourage you either.
No, they didn't discourage me. They encouraged me. They supported me, and they, like when I showed the first picture of the little Jimmy puppet, and I mentioned the dragon, Colchester the dragon, Mom had made him. But when it came to the wooden marionettes, Dad made the wooden ones. So yeah, and Dad drove us around to the shows, me and my friends. He used to drive us around.
Well, and you know what? And to your point, Heather, how is that any different than a young person showing interest in hockey or violin? And and your parents saying, okay, well, let's go get you into hockey or buy you a violin and get you some music lessons or whatever. So interesting that you had that support and that very, what I would guess was a rather eclectic interest at such a young age.
Yeah.
So we have a question in the chat function that I'll get to because I don't want to lose sight of the chat function questions either. And Nancy says, where can we see your performance schedule? You mentioned performing as part of Acadia Days in Truro coming up soon.
Okay. So on our website, we have a section that says where to see us. And so Maritime Marionettes, just look for our website. And I actually don't have the time of the Acadia show on there yet, but it's on the 15th of August, and it's in Truro. But all that information will be on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we can do with that is we send out a post-event email, so we can include the link. So Sandra, if you can make note to get the link to their website, and we can include that in the email, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right. So next question is submitted prior to, as an Acadia grad who has training in puppetry, how did you turn this passion into your career?
Oh, great question. Well, when I came to Acadia, I did have the idea that I wanted to be a puppeteer. That was in the back of my mind or in the front of my mind at all times, but I really didn't know how that was going to unfold. I just knew I needed more skills. So that's why I studied French at Acadia, because I loved the language and I knew if I was going to travel anywhere, that would be helpful. And I took some art courses also at Acadia and children's lit. So just filling my soul with all these things that are going to feed my passion. And then when I left Acadia and I went to the art college, I picked up many more skills there. But mainly to make it a career, I had to have the experience of going to the United States and working that year when Darryll and I went down there and worked with the Zodiacs. That just totally opened my eyes to, the logistics, getting a contract, having someone sign it, calling, knowing that you have to call a week before you leave to confirm everything. Like just so many things about running the business.
Yeah, how to survive without grants.
And how to survive without grants, which we did largely. There's some support we've received that
most of our income comes from what we earn from performances.
Pretty well, yeah. Except during the pandemic now. the first time we
Now we're on the dole.
Well, yeah. Well, but to that point, I mean, was there over the past year and a half? I mean, here's this presentation that we are engaging you in to share with our alumni community. Was there much of, and I'm a sucker for using the word, was there much pivoting involved in your world and trying to offer some workshops through a platform like Teams? Was that explored at all, and how does that translate? Because I suspect, anyway, that a lot of it is very tangible and it's very sort of being in there and doing it. So virtually might have been a huge challenge.
Yeah, it definitely was an adjustment for us. The big thing was how much time and energy do you put into something, not knowing whether you'll ever get anything monetarily back out of it. Mm-hmm. With our live performances, yeah, we had a contract before we left. We knew what we were going to get paid when we got there and what we were going to come home with. Where this, we had to spend money on cameras and TVs and reconfigure our studio, and Heather had to learn all the technology, and for the most part, we still don't know whether it's ever going to pan out, by the time we get back to live performing again. So that was, I was reluctant because I wasn't sure about it, and but it taught us a great deal too. When we actually started shooting, like I had mentioned before, shooting our puppets for the camera and instead of performing them for the audience, it gave us a whole new look at it, and we became very excited over the possibilities. We could see the possibilities that we could build on by putting things in the foreground, adding backdrops. It's almost like a whole other career that that you could lose yourself in, but then again, at some point, we don't know when we're going to be back doing what we normally do.
Yeah, and then speaking of the workshops, this is the puppet that I came up with for making a marionette out of materials you have at home, because we were asked by the schools in Nova Scotia to do that. So cardboard for control, duct tape, yarn, and a piece of fabric that has some flexibility to it. And we did this with some students. They absolutely loved it.
Yeah, for the Drama Fest.
For the Drama Fest, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we did, we had quite a bit of virtual activity in the schools. Yeah.
So the idea was to just basically make a marionette from what you could just find around you.
That's incredible. And how I'm just looking at that and thinking, how do you bring a piece of material to life? But there you go. That's how you bring a piece of material to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sidebar question, because I didn't write this one down, nor was it pre-submitted, but I just got distracted and thought I'm going to ask you: is your entire wardrobe black?
No. Well, I try not to wear it when we're not working.
Yeah, it certainly makes the marionettes show up better. So that's why we wear it even for the video presentation, because we've tried, let's just be more casual, and it's just too distracting. You can't see the puppets, so it's black. That works.
Yeah, we're very kind of what they would consider traditional puppeteers, in the sense that we try to be as anonymous as we possibly can, and make sure the audience is focused on the puppet.
Right, absolutely.
Other presentations are different.
Yeah, same as stage managers and backstage people who do yeah, absolutely. So the question that was pre-submitted was asking what ages you each got involved, which we covered a little bit. But the second part of that question was, was it hard to learn how to manipulate the puppets? And this comes back to me and my comment about tapping my head and rubbing my belly. I can't even fathom it.
Yeah. People have different ways of learning. My way is to just keep doing it over and over and over and over again until I get good at it. That's the way. And usually when we open a show, I used to say 100 performances before I achieve body memory, where I'm not thinking of what I need to do next. I can put everything into making the character come to life. And that just comes with a lot of repetition for me.
Yeah, repetition. And it is a little tricky to get used to, because there's a lag in time between when you pull the string or you do something up here. So if we're trying to time it with the soundtrack, we normally perform with the soundtrack pre-recorded, okay? So if I pull this, there's, there's swing in the puppet for one thing, and there's just a little bit of a delay. So you have to, I don't know, you just get a way of timing it so that you move it just at the right time. And if I was going to make the puppet jump, I kind of bounce it down and then lift it up and back down again. A lot of people would think, oh, just throw it over there. You see? They get a puppet and they think, oh, just make it go like that. And there it is on the lap. It isn't that funny. It's funny, but it doesn't have the movement isn't finessed enough, I guess, to read. And if you refine the movements and finesse them, then people just of all ages are just focused in on it. It's not just a gag, like this is a gag, right? But when you make the puppet move precisely and with intention, it's so powerful. That's what moved me.
Yeah. And Heather and I both play musical instruments too, which I think is really important to be able, because a lot of your timing and cues and stuff when you were performing is either coming from the music itself or you are interpreting the music. So some musical background, I think, really helps. But I know training or showing kids how to use the marionettes in schools, there are some that are just absolutely bright lights as soon as they pick them up. And then others, I mean, just don't know what to do.
Others, they use it like a gag.
Yeah, or, they just don't seem to make the connection.
Yeah. And the difference, as you say, between a gag and and sort of really learning the differences and how it can be moved. I mean, the difference in what you just did, Heather, makes it lifelike. Like, it's incredible how lifelike it can be when you're far better at making those movements. And I appreciate the music comment as well. Nancy's a musician, Nancy, so maybe exploring marionettes will be your next step. But it tells a story. It's all in the storytelling, right? For my understanding. So, and also as a viewer. So the next question is, Heather, how did you find your years at Acadia impact or influence your work with the marionettes, if at all?
Definitely. Well, I just received so much support and love and appreciation from my friends and just the whole university. Like, whenever we did variety shows, people just responded to the marionettes. So there was that initial just sort of boost to my confidence. And then afterwards, it was more that people from Acadia were just like sprinkled throughout our career, like principals at schools or teachers at schools or, in administrative roles. And they say, oh, Heather, I remember you from Acadia. And so in that respect, those connections are so true. When they say, you make connections at university that last a lifetime, they do. And so that was a big part of it. Just, yeah. I guess those two things.
Absolutely. So next one, have there been changes in the way young audiences respond to the marionettes over the years of your performing? That's it.
Yeah, I definitely. I think that they're quite surprised to see something out on a screen now. And sometimes even they have a hard time. They'll call it the movie or the show, or even though it's live, and so I think as the years have gone by, fewer and fewer kids are seeing live presentations. So yeah, we can definitely see that showing up in our audiences. It's not that they like them any less. Actually, they're even more enthusiastic. It's just that they seem to be more almost confused over what they're seeing.
Confused,
yeah. Confused, as opposed to a number of years ago when we started. I remember when we started, live children's performers were way more common than they are today. And yeah.
And another thing I noticed is attention span has changed. Not quite as long. Not quite as long. I mean, it's pretty good, but for our stuff anyway, they're always the teachers are always saying, "I can't believe they sat. They were so quiet. I've never seen them like that." We're pretty used to that kind of attention, but we have noticed a little bit less of an attention span.
Well, and I'm nodding furiously as you're explaining both of those things because, well, I have two kids, two offspring. They're hardly children anymore. But I can completely understand both of those comments. I mean, the attention span for sure. Interesting, Darryll, that you say, sort of in the last few years, video screens have taken over. So that awe that likely exists with seeing something in person and seeing something so magical that's not screen related must be, enticing to young viewers at short spurts. To your point, Heather.
Yeah. And I think the attention span thing may have something to do with like what is presented on the computer generated animation. There's so much going on. It's just crazy when you look at the stuff that's on TV. There's so much going on that when you come to a puppet show that is moving slowly and they have to sit and interpret the movement of the marionette to the music and stuff like that, you can kind of see why they may possibly get a little bit bored with it, because with the CG stuff they have now, it's very, very almost overstimulated.
Overstimulated, yeah. And I don't know if it's that they're, I wouldn't use the word bored.
Not bored, yeah.
It's more like it's more work for them. It's more like it requires more attention, as it does for me when I'm watching. I know the difference when I go to a live performance. If I go to watch a play, it's totally different than sitting back and watching a movie at home.
Yeah, and so it's like the creators of the stuff, they know that it's like eye candy for children, so more has to be better, right? And they never stop to think, well, maybe there's a point where there's so much going on, the brain can't possibly keep up with it. At least I can't.
I can't anyway, but that's me. I'm an adult. I can't keep up with stuff.
Yeah, we're the last generation, right?
I think so.
I mean, how many times have I said to my children, "Are you listening to me?" So last question for you is, with your younger audience, what do you find is more engaging for them? The viewing of the story itself or the making of the puppets? Like, sort of, where do you see more interest and more engagement?
I would have to say that there's nothing like the finished production. When, with the lights and the sound and the movement and hopefully Heather and I well rehearsed, it's just a magical thing, that because they can see it, how it all comes together in the end. I mean, the marionette making is engaging, learning how to manipulate it is engaging, but I think, I mean, for me it was too. Like when I traveled down to the U.S. with Heather, and I saw David's production of Peter and the Wolf, first from out front, and then I watched it from backstage. It was just, I was hooked. I was I want to do this. It just looks so exciting and so much fun. And little did I know.
Yeah, seeing a live performance has to be
yeah.
So maybe a part B to that question is, with younger audiences, maybe with older audiences as well, like somebody my age, is some of the magic lost if they learn more about what's happening backstage and more about the, how a marionette is actually made? Sort of, it's like magic, right? So you see a magic trick and then you kind of learn how it's done and then the magic's lost. So is there some of that when there's a little bit more detail about what goes on backstage?
Good question, Una. That there are people who have that camp. They're totally in that camp. They will not reveal any of their so-called secrets. Because they say, well, once you do that, it destroys it, because then the kids know how you did it. I don't know. I've just never been good at keeping secrets, I guess. I just love to share. If somebody's interested, I love to share about what we do. I mean, because I know I was always afraid to ask questions. I was always afraid I might offend. I might ask something somebody doesn't want to tell me how they did that. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to perpetuate that kind of,
Yeah, and I know the first time I went to see Live at the Met at the theater, and during those presentations, they will show backstage as well. And that's what I thought. It's going to spoil the whole thing for me if I see how it all really works. But I was just as interested in how it worked as I was in the actual show itself too. So I guess it kind of depends on the individual.
Yeah. I concur with you on that one for sure. My older brother is a performer, and I went to several of his performances, and I was sitting there kind of going, "Oh, that's cool," but I wonder how that works. And then I got into theater myself a little bit, and seeing the stuff backstage and seeing how scenes are switched out, it's just kind of like, okay, cool. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm just checking the chat function because I got a notification, but I am cognizant of time as well, because we do typically try to start at 7 and end at 8, but we have a question here. Have you performed for seniors, and how do they react? Thinking especially of older folks with cognition decline.
Mm-hmm. Sure, we have. We've certainly done that. And
number of senior homes.
Mm-hmm. And they're great audiences. And again, we often are performing for people on the margins in our society. There's often in the schools, there's a lot of disabled kids also in the school system, and they love our shows. It's something they can actually participate in and enjoy, and also definitely in the homes for seniors, we've definitely done stuff there too.
Yeah. Puppetry traditionally has been our art form for people in the margins, like street theater. People who maybe couldn't afford to go into a big theater and see a full production with all the expense of putting it together, could go see somebody who created a show from puppets in their basement or their backyard. So
it's accessible.
It's accessible.
So accessible to people.
To people.
And it also crosses all the generations, right?
Yeah.
It's just like you can have great-grandparents come. Like you can have 5 generations.
Yes.
However many generations you have, they can all come watch.
Yeah. I don't know how many theater managers I've tried to explain this to, that by having us, you could attract more people because of that. What Heather just said is that you can have 3 or 4 generations that come instead of just the one generation that just 2 people. Yeah.
And build your audience for the future, because
At
you're
the
bringing
same
the
time.
kids. You build your future audience. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what a wonderful point, and certainly an excellent point to end on, that we can think about that cross-generational representation, and as you said, peripheral populations who have barriers, whatever they may be. So a wonderful point, and appreciate that. We are going to end with me, first of all, letting our viewers know who the winner of the draw prize was, and this was not rigged in any way, shape, or form, I promise you. But our prize rather, is going to the furthest travel. Sue Rodney from New Zealand, you are the winner of the prize package this evening. And as I say, it was not rigged in any way, shape, or form. So I also like to take this opportunity just to let folks know what our next event is. And actually, we're taking a bit of a break, and we will be back on with our virtual event series near the end of August, where we will be doing a session about student services and supports on our campus. So we'd like to be able to share that with our alumni community so that folks know what it is we're doing for our current students on campus, and also a little bit about transition to university life. So if we have alumni out there who are sending their offspring or relatives or neighbors off to Acadia, we're providing that information. So that'll be later in August. Heather, Darryll, really want to say thank you. Appreciate the time that you shared with us this evening, and more so than your time, your passion. You're clearly very, very passionate about what you do, and have made a career of it and a life of it. So really, really thank you for sharing your time with us and sharing with our alumni community what you've been up to. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. And as I said, it'll be recorded, and we'll send a link out for anybody who would like to view it again after today.